Hey, hey, remember me? It's your old video game writing 101 professor. Uh, if you watched the last couple videos that I made through my little writing course, I did make a solemn promise that I would not be posting lots of new videos and new content like those YouTubers do because I just don't really have the time or the desire. Um, but, I've been thinking about it lately, and I think I'd like to maybe post a few more videos here and there. And I thought I would do one where I just talked honestly about what I have personally seen in regards to AI and game writing with my clients. In other words, where I have actually seen AI being used firsthand, narrative design, writing for games. This is just one person's observations. Although, as a freelancer, I'm privileged to work for different people, and so I get to be a fly on the wall with lots of different companies and studios, and sometimes publishers and things like that. So anyway, I thought it'd be interesting to somebody. I hope. Um, so this is how I've seen my clients using AI as far as writing and narrative design. I'm not going to name any names because they're my clients. I would do that. Um, but yeah, I mean, let me start with where I haven't seen it used. That is, I work for one company. It's a large company, and they're very serious about narrative design as a profession, and they have narrative designers that I help out. And it's interesting. They at one point I think were optimistic about using AI to at least write little things like chatter in the crowd or just kind of barks, what we call barks, little reactions to things, getting shot in the face and stuff like that. And they seem to have abandoned that. They write everything just like in the old days, which is uh, which is cool. I'm not going to come down on AI. I mean, I have an opinion. It's you know probably not hard to guess what my opinion is, but for this video, I just kind of want to just objectively sort of illustrate what I've seen. I have another client, casual games, very story centric, and they also take story very seriously. Um, and my client there does use AI to come up with story ideas, come up with sort of big ideas, ideas for stories, and then within say a story concept, a lot of ideas for things that could happen throughout the story. Also to organize their thoughts about a particular story. So if this person is, walking their dog through the park and were struck by inspiration for a possible story that they want to do in one of the casual games they make, they might use Chat GTP to organize their thinking around it. But it's always, when it gets presented to me, it's always with, the caveat that a lot of this isn't going to necessarily be usable. It's not to be taken as written in stone. It's just something to work with. And I found by and large, while it may help, I think this person sort of kickstart their thinking and get going. It doesn't have a lot of effect on the work that we end up doing. We don't end up using really much of it. Um, we work then on the story treatment and the narrative design kind of organically, like normal. Interesting to me though that this person had told me that they're really grateful for Chat GTP to help them come up with ideas and organize their thoughts around them, and that they couldn't do it without them. This person isn't necessarily a narrative designer by training. They're oversee, the stories and things, and they work with me to kind of implement them and all that. And I disagreed with her. I said, I mean, it's not for me to tell my clients not to use AI, but I said, yeah, I don't think you do. I really don't. I think you got this. Based on what you're giving me. In other words, this person goes to use AI and organize their thoughts and come up with ideas, and they give it to me. But then they're sort of also telling me what their vision is and things like that. And I'm like, based on what you're telling me versus what you're producing with Chat GTP, I don't think you need it at all. I don't think it's actually helping you as much as perhaps you think it is. But it's not for me to it's not for me to say. I'm not them. But I thought it was, we had an interesting conversation about that. I mean, they were like, boy, I just can't. I just couldn't do this without the AI. And I was like, I think you are. I think you can. I think you're better than. I think your ideas are better than the ones that the AI comes up with. But the end result of what we do, we're not using much of what the AI produces. Another client. This is a small studio, and their game is not really. It's not very story centric. It has dialogue in it, and they just this. I've worked for this person several times. They're it's a lot of fun to work for them. There's no real story. We're writing a lot of barks, reactions to things that happen, in the game during gameplay. And most of that stuff, they just told me what they wanted and I wrote. But for some of the things, we needed some additional lines. So they used, I think it was Chat GTP again, to come up with actual lines of dialogue, actual barks. And told me, hey, why don't you work through this? Why don't you just kind of go through this and just, touch it up? Okay, sure. I found about a third of the stuff that it came up with to be okay. If I was going to be quite honest, for what this was, again, just simple short barks, and that had to be accurate to what was going on. I found about a third of it to be like just not well written at all, just odd, and so you revise it. I found about a third of what the Chat GTP did to be like borderline incomprehensible. Like, I don't understand wow it came up with some of these. I mean, they just made no sense given the circumstance that they were going to be triggered in. How much time was saved by having the AI generate these? I'm not sure, to be honest. Versus had I just done them myself, and done some research and come up with some ideas and jotted them down. And I don't know that a whole lot of time was saved, but maybe some. Like I said, about a third of them were fine. I have another client. Now, this client's a little different in that they are a consultancy group. And they consult on a lot of casual games for publishers and developers. And they turn to me as kind of a subcontractor to do narrative design and writing, and it's great. I love working with these guys too. I learn a lot from them. They're really smart. They were working with some developers. I won't say overseas. I mean, they're based in the United States. I'm based in the United States. So overseas. Overseas for us is overseas, so somewhere else, another continent other than North America. And English, it was not their native language, and I don't think a lot of the developers at this particular studio were, spoke it real well. So they're making a casual game in which I think that the story was deceptively important. I think, like, again, this happens a lot. A group of hardworking developers are cranking away at a game and making a game, and there's a million things to worry about other than story and dialogue. And so they made this kind of casual, free to play game in which story and dialogue it really is important. I don't think they thought it was important or realized it was important. But over here in the States, so I mean, they're making a game for North Americans because North America is still uh, probably the biggest, customer base. That you want to sell well in North America. And so they have this. So what they use is they use chat or some AI to create story and dialogue, or at least translate dialogue from their language to English, and it was pretty bad. And and I was playing through their build, and it just reminded me of the casual games that we saw a lot, like the mid 2000s, where already back then casual gamers we're starting already let me phrase it this way. Already the casual game industry was starting to raise the bar for story, even in these hidden object games and games that were maybe fairly low budget overall, but players player casual gamers really wanted to engage with the story, and they were getting tired of poorly translated um, English and poor and just poor stories. They were getting burnt out. So already in the mid 2000s, the bar for story, even in low budget casual games, was getting raised, and that's how I found a lot of work back then, and kind of to this day. Um, so it was really unimpressive what AI had done in this case. I think they're thinking they had saved some time, but my client was trying to convince them that this was not this wouldn't work, or this was not good. They needed to fix it, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes there. Um, Same group of consultants whom I sometimes subcontract for had also seen it used to create actual like story treatment type stuff, and for a different sort of casual game. In this case, it created a lot of like backstory and sort of story scenarios, and it was done in sort of like a, I don't know, hard boiled noir style, and it was pretty bad. Although I have to admit that in this case, it did come up with some sort of interesting ideas. If you stripped away all the horrible metaphors and things, it read like it was written by sort of a kid in high school who was trying really hard to write like a hard-boiled sort of noir stories, and maybe written as such that you'd say, hey, I think this kid will have talent one day if they keep at it. But it wasn't good, and it was just a lot of fluff. When you stripped away all the sort of like metaphors and things, there was just very little, I think, actionable uh, ideas presented there, for story scenarios for this game, and yeah, I mean that's about it. Hopefully, all that all made sense. Again, I'm trying not to name names because that would not be cool. But I would say out of all of this, okay, so it's 4 clients, and for one of the clients, it's 2 different games. Okay, um, almost nothing that's generated by AI I have seen just go straight into the game as is. Like, this is good enough. Maybe a few barks, but all in all, I get the impression that even my clients, when they present me stuff that's been they created with AI, aren't super confident in it, but hope it'll spark ideas, maybe give us a little bit of a head start, that kind of thing. And I don't know. maybe that's fine for now. I don't know what the future of AI will be. Everyone seems to know, but me. Sure, it'll probably get better. Will it get to the point where it can tell really good stories? I don't know. It's hard to imagine, but I suppose it's possible. Um, Clients are using it, but not to the extent that it has me worried for anybody's future as a narrative designer. Um, it's hard to make a living in this business doing this, but I don't know that AI is going to replace the real work that we do with plotting a story out within the using game mechanics and such tight collaboration with the team and stuff like that. You know it may be a tool that you'll have to put up with and maybe get some use out of. But anyway, that's what I see for now. It's what is it? It's the middle of January 2026. A year from now, maybe I'll make a video and it'll be totally different. Hope you're doing well. It's a crazy time as usual. Crazy time for the industry. I want to say RIP Twisted Pixel Games. Maybe I'll do a whole separate video for that, just because those guys deserve it. But anyway, that's it. Thanks.